Next, I'm going to tell the story of how fragrance really changed everything for me and when I really started becoming a fragrance head and collector and how it changed my love life. Honestly, let's be serious. So stay tuned to hear the story coming up next. Welcome back, everybody, to Joel the Nose, and again here in Los Angeles, LA. And I did a video the other day, which I think resonated with people, and that I'm going to try to do more of, and that's storytelling in fragrance and how it relates to our lives and how fragrance has made a difference in our lives through telling real stories, from my past and my life when it comes to fragrance. And today it's going to be a short one, but it was one of the most impactful experiences of my life. And the fragrance that is involved today is, actually, let me tell you the story first. So the year was 1994, spring of 1994, and going into 1995. And I'll never forget, I was in law school, and it was during spring break, and some friends were visiting us from Tulane in New Orleans. Kind of a party school, a lot of fun, and they were down, and we were in the Florida Keys, which, for those of you who don't know, is an island chain south of Miami. It's like a tropical paradise, and it's only about an hour from Miami, Key Largo. And I used to spend a lot of time there with my friends, and we were there for spring break. And this girl came down, and this girl that I had known a little bit, and we were, getting to know each other better. Obviously, we had real connection. And at the time, right, hardly anyone wore fragrance of my friends. Maybe the ones we wore at that time, coming out of the 80s, was Polo Green, Drakkar Noir, classic, right? And then Cool Water, which I believe came out in 88 or 89. That's pretty much what everyone wore. Other than that, most dudes just didn't have a good fragrance collection. Meanwhile, this girl comes down from New Orleans, and she introduces me to a fragrance that really changed the game for me. Okay? And that was, ta-da, Polo Sport. Those of you guys remember, and probably a lot of you still have it. I'm going to show you a picture here, if I can get my phone open, because I don't have it with me. Polo Sport, you guys remember this bottle? That blue bottle with the silver top, the American flag, Ralph Lauren, of course, Polo Sport. This was an eau de toilette, EDT. It had this minty, aldehydic, lavender, fresh, green, yet blue. This was like one of the original kind of blue scents that became really popular. Again, it changed the game from this stuff coming out of the 80s. And all of a sudden you had, you had CK1 at the time coming out, and all of a sudden you had this one. And this was introduced to me by this girl, and she found out about it because her sister ran a very high-end chic boutique in South Beach and had gotten introduced to different fragrances, much more so than the rest of us were at the time. I was 24 at the time. I barely knew anything about fragrance. I collected it, I liked it. When I say collected, I had the main 3 or 4 bottles, and that was it. This changed everything. She gave this to me. I put it on. I gotta say, it was like a magnet. She was attracted to me from wearing this Polo Sport like nothing I had ever seen in my fragrance journey or before. Fast forward, going into my early mid-20s, this was my go-to fragrance as I was like 25, 26, and all my friends around me, none of them really wore fragrance. Or again, maybe they'd put a couple sprays of Polo or Drakkar or Cool Water. I start wearing Polo Sport in the mid-90s, right after this comes out. And one after one, whenever we would go out with my friends to the bars in South Florida, this would get noticed. Even my friends' girlfriends would comment. They're like, to my friends, why don't you pick up what Joel's wearing? Whatever he's wearing, I want you to buy that. This changed the game for me. At that point, I realized the power of fragrance and the power of smelling good and standing out from the crowd. Okay? Now, Polo Sport obviously is a designer fragrance. It ultimately became very popular, and a lot of people were wearing it. And after a few years, it was not so different, right? It no longer differentiated me. But at first, this was a game changer, and I still love it. So I still have a bottle to this day that I keep at home when I want to get nostalgic. And again, when I want a memory or an experience to transport me back to my kind of mid-20s in those great times with my friends and going out and meeting girls and going to clubs in Miami and South Beach in the 90s when it was just kind of like the wild, wild west down. You know, it was just such a tremendous fun time, and Polo Sport takes me there. Polo Sport makes me feel, wow, you know, almost 30 years younger, because this was almost 30 years ago now. So that's my story. Polo Sport, from that point forward, I realized the power of fragrance. I realized the power of fragrance to attracting, you know, women, to making an impression, to getting lucky with it, to just everything about it. And I kind of owe that to Polo Sport, because if I hadn't been introduced to it by this girl from New Orleans, I probably would have stuck with the same 2 or 3 fragrances for God knows how long, just thinking that's what I needed to do. And it really opened my mind to this whole other world of smells and fragrances that started me down this rabbit hole. So maybe I should blame it. I don't know. Maybe it's not this fragrance journey. So there you have it. This is Joel the Nose. Let's hear some stories. Do you have, I love the stories, by the way, relating to family members and parents that from my previous video. I want to hear stories. Do you have stories from your past about a fragrance that changed the game for you when it came to attracting, you know, partners and attracting men, women, whatever you were doing? Just, do you have stories? Put them in the comments. I want to hear them. It's great to hear you guys' stories. I really love it. Kind of motivates me and pumps me up. So thank you guys for watching. Again, this is Joel the Nose. I'll be back soon with another video. Peace and love.